Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Coming to you from Washington's nicest indoor shooting facility. Of course, that's Security Gun Club right here in Woodinville, Washington. I want to talk to you about a pretty obvious upcoming battle that many of you are going to have in your state legislature. And it's about a law that many of you may not realize that your state has. But I'm going to explain to you the very, very important nature of that law and what happens if that law gets repealed. So today, let's spend a few minutes, let's get you educated, and let's talk about the upcoming attack on your state's most important gun law. Okay, so the issue we're talking about today is state preemption laws. Many of you may not know what state preemption laws are. We're going to talk about it. What was the inspiration for this video was a story I read on The Truth About Guns, a website that you all should be checking out. The story was entitled, 42 States Have Gun Control Preemption Laws and They're Driving Anti-Gun Dems Crazy. What exactly is a state preemption law? Well, listen, take it from somebody here in Washington State that actually has a state preemption law that, as much as we hate the laws that our state pass, what you don't want is cities, municipalities, counties, and other smaller governments being able to pass further restrictions. And that's exactly what a state preemption law does. It says that the state and the state alone gets to set all the restrictions as it relates to the use, possession, and other things related to firearms. Now, like I say, if you are living in a state as blue as my state, trust me, you do not like what is coming out of your state capital. However, if you give the city of Seattle, which many of you are abundantly aware of how well they've performed in the last few years, the autonomy to further restrict gun rights, well, they will do exactly that. Take, for example, a recent mass shooting that we had in downtown Seattle. Now, it's all completely gang-related. There's no evidence to suggest that anyone was lawfully possessing a firearm. Unfortunately, it did result in 3 people losing their lives and another 6 being wounded. There have been no arrests made yet. Now, did that stop Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell from saying that, candidly, the state legislature needs to give the cities and counties more chances to save lives? So I would ask to you, Mayor Harrell, what law exactly do you believe that the city could have passed that would have prevented this? See, because we already have laws on the books that say you're not supposed to run around and start shooting places up and shooting people. So I'm not quite certain exactly what the city of Seattle might think they can do that's differently. Now, the reason this has come up more recently, though, is we have seen both in Pennsylvania and in Ohio recently, where municipalities have decided to pass more restrictive gun measures than their states. Of course, those laws were immediately challenged, and despite the makeup of the bench in those respective states, yeah, those laws have been struck down. Why is that? Well, because the state preemption law basically says, no, only the state, only that state can set gun restrictions. Now, many who favor civilian disarmament will tell you that this is just another radical right-wing idea to keep from having reasonable gun control measures. But I would suggest that no, it's actually based a lot more in common sense and how laws are supposed to work. You see, we as a society theoretically agree on an acceptable form of behavior. We call that acceptable form of behavior laws, okay? When we violate those laws, there are punishments for it. Now, just to give you an example, currently in Washington State, no matter how bad our gun laws are, and they do suck, they are equally as bad if you're on this part of the state as if you're in this part of the state or in this part of the state. And when you drive across the state, despite the fact that you will go through many, many different types of political environments, okay, as you travel from the coast through the Puget Sound region, over the mountains, through central and in eastern Washington, I can assure you that the politics will change on that road trip. However, the gun laws will not. Therefore, what is illegal and legal way out here in Grays Harbor County is also exactly the same when you get all the way over here to Spokane County. And that is one of the most important functions of a law, is that everybody is put on notice, okay? As we know, ignorance is not a defense. However, when we start creating a tapestry, a hodgepodge of gun laws, so that as you drive across your respective state, you will go from legal to illegal to legal to illegal. You will have the ability to carry your firearm loaded in one county, but then you have to unload it and put it in the back of your car in another one. You can carry your 15-round magazine in one county, but you can only carry an 8-round magazine in another county. And you can see exactly what's going to happen here if state preemption laws are allowed to be repealed. Now, here's the other thing you all need to be aware of. Right now, there is barely enough warm bodies to mount all of the challenges that we see coming out of all the state legislatures, as well as the ATF, the Biden administration, the Department of Justice. Can you imagine what happens if suddenly municipalities all throughout the country start getting to create their own gun laws, and how many additional lawsuits there would be? Not only would that clog up the court system, thus we would never be able to get to any resolution on any of these matters, but candidly, I don't know if there's enough warm bodies to actually handle that much litigation. Now, as I mentioned at the outset of this, there are 42 states that actually have state preemption laws. But mark my word, and we've already seen it here in Washington State now. 2 years in a row, we've had House Bill 1178, which was introduced, and all that bill did was essentially strike Washington State's preemption law. That would allow cities like Seattle to make its own gun laws. Now, this is important. Understand that if your state eliminates its preemption law, that does not give a municipality the authority and autonomy to pass any gun restrictions, including lifting all gun restrictions. No, no, no. Your state's laws will always serve as a floor, but the municipality or other local government agency will have the ability to pass even greater restrictions. So there is no freedom that will ever come from the repeal of state preemption laws. And when we allow municipalities such as the city of Naperville and what they did to Rob Vivas, or what the city of San Jose has done now with their mandatory carry insurance, you can see the ridiculous nature of the types of laws that can be passed. But worse yet, some of these laws are so egregiously unconstitutional that we are finding local sheriffs and municipal police departments that are unwilling to enforce these laws. Now, kudos to them. But trust me, we are beginning to break down as a society that's built in the rule of law, when suddenly law enforcement and the government cannot even agree on what laws are constitutional and what should be enforced. That problem and all the others associated therewith is only going to be exacerbated if your state repeals its state preemption law. For all of you nationwide, in any one of the 42 states that has a preemption law, please pay very careful attention. Watch what's going to happen in your state legislature over the next couple of years. You're going to see, and they're going to slide it in on some other kind of bill, some big, huge omnibus firearms bill, and it will just be some fine little print where they're going to whittle away at your state preemption law. But then understand, like take Texas, for example, which we usually think as a predominantly conservative state, and certainly at the state government level, that is what you see. But if Texas didn't have a state preemption law, what are the gun laws going to be in Austin? Okay, and that gives you an example how nobody is safe, no matter what color your state is, if preemption laws are allowed to be repealed. We're going to link up all the information you need about state preemption laws right down there in the description box. So if you guys want to geek out on this a little bit more, I do encourage each and every one of you to remain politically active and very carefully watch for any attempt to erode or repeal your state preemption law. In the meantime, if you guys got any questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to contact Washington Gun Law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is right down there in the description box. Now, in the meantime, I do want you all to remember that part of being a lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation, how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.